You know, our next guest from his fantastic work on CBS Sports, and of course, one half of one of the best shows going today, Morning Kombat. Brace yourself for a bowls bonanza as he's here to art and also help us preview UFC 265. BC, make it look easy. Brian Campbell, welcome back to Submission Radio. Dude, how about this? Second appearance. We're best friends already.
I love it. I love it right now. I feel like we can all go tip to something here.
Yeah.
Love the use of the material there. Very well done. And, you know, I leaped at the chance to be back with guys like you who pull this kind of numbers down under. I mean, you guys just pulling clicks, or you pulling the other numbers too? You know,
oh, Brian, you're too kind. I bet you say that to all the Australian podcasts. No, dude, it's a pleasure. We love having you on. A lot of love for yourself and Luke, and you guys just killing it with Morning Kombat. Absolutely love it. But we know you don't have a ton of time, so let's get into it, man. Before we get into the actual fight itself, I want to get your thoughts on this glaring shadow hanging over the fight, and that is, of course, the interim title. You know, where do you stand on how it came to fruition, considering that Francis obviously just fought a few months ago? Kind of feels like 50%, you know, we just needed a title to headline an event, and the other 50% feels a bit like, hey, Jon Jones, here's a middle finger to you, and Francis, also here's one to you too, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of potential like negative emotion or negative I don't know, like reasoning behind it that don't help the situation. And I feel like I want to be more mature than this. I want to be like, hey, I don't care if there's a belt, 4 belts at stake, no belts at stake. This fight's great. And you know what? The fight is pretty damn awesome. And I do have to remember that I had these same emotions ahead of UFC 236 in, what was that, 2019 in Atlanta, which I was, good Lord, blessed to be at with the double interim title fights with Poirier Holloway and Gastelum Adesanya. And that was a situation too, where really in both of those fights, I was like, you know, you don't really kind of need an interim title. You're kind of watering down what could already just be a great standalone fight card with title contending bouts. But, you know, sometimes Dana does these things and then they pay off. And then he keeps doing them. And that night paid off big. And I'm going to bite my tongue now and say, maybe UFC 265 is going to pay off huge and we'll forget this ever happened. But in theory, in practice, I hate it. Why? Because, yes, I say that a lot at Morning Kombat. I am the boxing guy. I know the sins of my favorite sport. And if we all remember history, UFC was created by 3 friends, the Fertitas and Dana, the Zufas there, that loved boxing, hated the politics around it, and tried to create something that did it right? Like, we all know the origin story here. And this is gratuitously dipping into what boxing does, floating titles that are largely meaningless for the sake of selling tickets and looking good on TV. And I think in this case, what really broke my heart with this is, look, we all know it's a sham. It's bullshit. There's an interim title when Francis Ngannou is 3 months away from winning it and just said he can come back in September. So this is all bullshit. But an hour or so after this fight was announced, I had an email in my inbox from UFC PR saying, you know, UFC announces 4-fight pay-per-view 4-year partnership with Toyota's Houston Center. So it's like, oh, that explains it. It doesn't make it any better. It sucks. And I am just such a stickler for, like, I romanticize the structural foundation of, like, the titles matter in UFC. And I've never liked interim titles. I think they only should be there when someone's a decorated champion who's hurt and can't fight. I don't like in history, as much as I love Shane Carwin and Carlos Condit, that they go down as interim champions. I think there should be some other way to just say what we're doing here. We're having a number 1 contenders fight. And it's going to be a great fight. And everything about that is great. But no, you bastardize the entire situation. And in this case, it's not someone's hurt, they won't be back for 6 months. It's bullshit. So you guys know that. I know that. And this is a question I asked Luke the other day on Morning Kombat, Luke Thomas. It's like, at some point, what's the I'll ask you guys, what's the point where we just stop talking about that sore and just go, oh yeah, also it's going to be a good fight, let's enjoy it? I don't know when that point is. I'm not there yet.
Today.
It's interesting. Yeah, well, I was going to say, I was thinking about it, Brian, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, man, I was thinking about those Randy Couture days, you know, similar thing happened in a lot of ways. Randy was gone, and you had that interim title fight as well. You had Nogueira and Frank Mir, and I'm just laughing at the fact that 2021, we're still dealing with the same issues. So many things change, so many things haven't, but that is maybe the most significant interim title fight that I can really remember. And I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, the UFC can name it the UWBO title for all we care, because most interim titles, like you said, are very forgettable, and we don't really recognize most guys as interim champions. But do you think it's fair to say that this interim title may actually have a little bit more legitimacy, given that aside from Lewis's current win streak, he also owns a win, and maybe it wasn't the most exciting performance, but a win over the current champion in Ngannou?
No, I don't. I think those other situations I mentioned, there was almost more meaning, right? In that Holloway Poirier, it's like, okay, well, Khabib can't fight, yeah, but I still thought that was gratuitous. It just happened 3 months ago, and Ngannou's not even hurt. He's just needed a little more time. It's just crap. And anyone saying like, BC, who cares, dude? They're getting paid. It's going to be a great fight. And again, like 236. Dana put these guys in a position to fight for that 1%, right? Fight for that pay-per-view money and the title and everything that graduating to that level brings. And they responded with great fights. This fight could end up being that. But it just waters down the thing that should matter the most, right? Why are we in this game? We're fighting to see who's best to win the damn champ. Like, that's the most pure. Yeah, there's a lot of bullshit in this. There's politics, there's marketing, there's all that. But at the end of the day, we show up to find out who's best. And this is like, to some people, it's whatever. To me, it's like, you're going down the wrong path. I've seen people go down this wrong path before. Don't do it, okay? Dude, give me the keys, right? You know what I mean? Get out from behind the wheel. Somebody put Grandpa down already. Don't go here, please.
Yeah, okay, well, let's look to more positive things. We'll break down the fight itself in a second, but which excites you more? The idea of Derrick Lewis and Ngannou coming full circle now with both of them champions, possibly having, the kind of fight people dreamed of back in 2018 when, they basically put everybody to sleep in one of the worst fights of the year, the idea of righting that wrong, or the possibility that Cyril Gane, who made his professional MMA debut 1 month after that horrible fight and could now be facing his former training partner who holds the actual belt. This isn't quite Jon Jones and Rashad Evans or, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, but, it's got intrigue written all over it, BC. Which one excites you more?
Oh, you got me with that reference. Wow. I'd have to say I've been it's such Cyril Gane proving to be this good. And I was late to the party in realizing that he could be this good. My colleague Luke Thomas from a long time back was like, I think this guy's got future title potential. I'm like, the French guy? Like, he's okay. He's fine, right? Like he beat Wash JDS. That's cool. But no, he's made a giant leap. And I think he brings such a unique skill set to the big guys that we were waiting for Jon Jones to bring and hoping that he still will bring, that I think for me, it would be refreshing to see him get to this level this quickly, bring that style in with that great gas tank, the ability to dance on his toes like he's a middleweight at 6'5", and just bring something different. And I think when you add in this part of the marketing, okay, I don't like the marketing of the interim title. Do I like the marketing of UFC trying to go into different countries and maybe going back to France, a nation where, the sport was ridiculously banned for the last X amount of years, and potentially have French-born Cyril Gane versus came of age while he was in France, Francis Ngannou, and all that other storylines that we're talking about here. Dude, can we put a cage under the Eiffel Tower? Like, this is, to me, this is like central casting and great marketing. I think the Lewis and Ngannou fight is one of those rematches that we're going to see anyway. I still have a bad taste in my mouth from having sat there front row, and I usually say in the John Morgan seat, well, next to the blue shirt. I was in the next to the John Morgan seat. But, that was a stinker when we all expected sex, right? We all expected we got a Cinemax B movie. We're like, can you take it all off, please? But at the end of the day, no, I think Gane's potentially special, and that's why I think if you can get me to get past the interim title BS, I really like the style contrast in this fight, this main event on Saturday, and I really like the idea, Gane, using this as sort of a see where he's at for a guy who doesn't have the exact same style, but is a slugger nonetheless of Ngannou. I'd rather go down that road.
Hey, listen, if they could set Rush Hour 3 at the Eiffel Tower, I think a cage underneath it is one step up. And, I don't know if Gane will be putting Francis Ngannou through a barbershop window, but definitely there's going to be some serious heat going in here. I'm curious, though, man. All right, so we're talking about this interim title and these great storylines. Then you've got Jon Jones and Stipe there as well. And you go, how do these guys fit in here? And having those guys in the shadows, Jon Jones up in the rafter like Sting, does that sort of take away any legitimacy or power from that belt? Because you think that if Jon Jones signs that deal tomorrow, that belt magically disappears. And all of a sudden, Jon Jones is in there.
And just to add to what Dennis was saying, is it just me, or does it feel like the MMA world has kind of forgotten Jon Jones? He was all the talk a few weeks and months ago, just crickets now.
Okay, do you know what I think is the reason why? And it's not even related to Jon Jones. Let me recap real quickly. Like, I was that day one dude back in Jon Jones light heavyweight prime, who's like, one day this guy's going to heavyweight, and he's going to win the championship and be a 2-division champion, and he's going to put himself as the GOAT so far above of everyone, and I don't think he's going to lose at heavyweight. Why? Because I do think his length mixed with speed and ability to box and kickbox, I just think they're going to have a lot of problems picking that up. I've been standing on that mountaintop, waving the flag for a long time, until Francis Ngannou just said Stipe to the deep, dark depths. And then we were like, oh shit, he just leveled up in like the scariest way ever, like the most, bad guy villain in a movie, like holy freaking crap ever. I think that's more in line with the idea of Jon Jones taking a little bit of a step back than even the whole money issue, which is the main reason why he's not debuting right now at heavyweight. So it's very interesting. I just think like that was the first moment where even I was like, I'm not really sure Jon Jones gets out of the first round against this version of Ngannou. So I look at Jon Jones now as like a bonus for us at heavyweight. In heavyweight, historically, guys, we all know this. This is why we celebrated Stipe, getting 2 or 3 title defenses together in a row as like this great, massive thing, because it's been such a transient division, not just because of the fact that you got 4-ounce gloves and big dudes, but Randy Couture had been stripped or times or lost and came back. We never got to see Kane in a full reign. So to finally have players, like unlockable players here, like it's a video game, it's great. It's still not deep, but it's top heavy and sexy. So I'm going to let Jon Jones and new advisor Richard Schaefer and all this BS about fighter pay, which, this is one of the rare times I do back Jon Jones in this case. I think we all should. In some way, we should be backing the fighter pay push. But when he does come, it's going to be massive front page news and a giant pay-per-view, whether he debuts for the title or debuts against Stipe or freaking debuts against Brock Lesnar, for all we know. It's going to matter. I don't sit here and go, hey, this is great that we got a main title and interim title, but no one's fought Jon Jones yet, because I think Francis winning it for me felt like a new era had potentially begun. So this is going to be interesting, really, for me, Francis against everyone. And now you got Cyril Gane in the middle of this, and he might be the best of them all for all we know, or maybe he ends up looking at the lights on Saturday. Heavyweight's fun again. Guys, when was the last time heavyweight was really fun? There was like a window there with Kane and Brock and JDS, right? But it didn't really work out.
I think heavyweight was kind of a disappointment. It was like so many legacies that just were never fulfilled. All these expectations that were never met. And Stipe kind of did it. And now heavyweight's great, man. I'm so looking forward to the winner of this fight and what happens. But just looking at the fight itself, we know Gane is no stranger, obviously 5 rounds, so that's good. He's got that preparation. He's very technical, very calculated. He's not afraid of having a very disciplined, if not overly exciting game plan. But how do you think that matches up with a guy like Derrick Lewis, who's never out of the fight and has, been known for these crazy come from behind victories where he's been getting picked apart, and he carries that power all the way to the very end of the fight. And also, I wonder, with Dana being a little bit critical over Gane's, great wins, does that put extra pressure on Gane to maybe, do something extra? Not that he needs to, but I wonder if under this spotlight, he's going to feel that pressure.
I think if there was doubt whether he would get the next title shot, if Jon Jones was ready, then you could put some kind of pressure on, he's got to entertain. No, there's an interim title at stake. That tells you he's getting next, or so we think, right? We've seen guys unceremoniously stripped of interim titles in the past few years, Colby Covington, Tony Ferguson, whatever. But I think in this case, it's survive and advance, and that's what you have to do against Derrick Lewis. So when you look at the matchup, everything that you said right there is telling me that this is Gane's fight to win. Yeah, he's going to be in his opponent's backyard. Yeah, a lot of things, but he does have very strong poise and an IQ and a real mind for this game that doesn't give me fear. But yet it's like, that's the perfect setup for Derrick Lewis to remind us that he's got this otherworldly power, right? It's like every time you want to count this guy out, he does something massive. I never thought we would see Derrick Lewis again at the highest level after that Cormier fight. There was just something about the way he carries himself and the quotes he uses that I felt like That was the moment he realized he could be really great at this. He had his moment. He trained the best he could. He went out there and he got absolutely dominated. An exposed, like, worst case scenario in a lot of ways. But, to his credit, man, just keeps finding a way to get back in here. I don't want to discount like him at home in a miracle late knockout. And certainly if Cyril Gane isn't all that we think he is, then, he can get caught late, and he should get caught late if he's not all that we think he is. But it's really hard when you got the guy with that level of stamina, footwork, layers to his offense, the way he sets it up. Yeah, he's going to have to show us some toughness and bite down in some instances here in ways that maybe he hasn't had before. But how could you say anything negative, in my opinion, coming off of that Volkov fight? I mean, he answered all the questions I had, plus he was more offensive than I had seen him in certain moments in the past where you go, okay, looks great here, but what about this round against this guy or this? No, I felt like against Volkov, I saw enough. So if it gets hairy in there and he needs to fight from the outside and he needs to survive and advance, I think he's got the skills to do it. So as much as I want to pick Lewis here, I love the hometown story. No one's a better quote. You gotta go Gane. You gotta do it, bro. You got. I know you guys drink a lot of coffee down there, and it could get you crazy in the head. You gotta pick Gane though. You gotta do it.
Yeah, it's interesting for the Lewis because it's like what you mentioned. It's kind of like if DC was still around, it would be a different story. But what a great timing for him. I mean, even though Gane's a super tough fight, he's still got the style to, be risky in that one. And even in the Francis Ngannou fight, he's been in there with Francis. So the timing for him is great. He's already got a big following. I wonder what it would do for his following and his name value in the history books if he's able to pull this off. I mean, timing-wise, couldn't be any better. Let's talk about the Michael Chiesa versus Vicente Luque fight, which is an excellent matchup in the welterweight division. I mean, how do you see Chiesa's smothering top control matching up against Vicente's wild and dangerous come forward and smash your face in style? And is there an X factor about Vicente that we haven't really seen in quite some time in any other fighters, in the sense that he's the nicest guy? He likes to dress, he kind of dresses not like a fighter. He has nice shirts, nice tops, but when he's in there, he just loves being in the battle. He loves absorbing strikes. It doesn't do anything to him. He loves being in a firefight, which is very scary for fighters when they face him.
It is. It's very scary. And, if you've got a gas tank issue, if you've got a chin issue, I mean, he's going to be in there. He's going to get up in that ass, as they say. But I think the X factor for me is, look, I don't want to say anything negative about Luque because he's won. I don't know. What's the number? 9 out of 10, 10 out of 11. I mean, he's got one loss in like the last 5-6 years, something like that. He's been on such a great run, but we have to be honest, it has been against a certain level of competition. The X factor for me was always, I said to myself, like, there's always the front face analysis you give on the camera, but then hey, what if my best buddy texts me? What do you think about Luque? You'd probably give him a more like cutthroat. So my best buddy text reaction to Luque is fun fighter, overachieves a bit because he puts it all out there, but when he gets to the next level, he's going to get served because he's a little too willing to get in there. Now, I don't think he's going to get, quote unquote, served by Michael Chiesa. That's not his style. But I think the X factor is a potentially negative one for Luque, meaning I think I've seen him hit his ceiling, even though it's impressive and that win streak is great with that one loss in the middle. And, he could also put on the pressure and just outwork Chiesa and get the win here. That's fine. But he still has to show me that there is an X factor, that there is another gear for him to get to that next level. I love the style contrast in this fight, no doubt about it. I think there's more to gain from Chiesa, who I think in this crowded title picture at the very top, a little bit of a bottleneck. I think Chiesa has a chance to potentially leapfrog others, only because he hasn't fought. He's like the only guy in that mix that hasn't fought Usman before and isn't coming off a loss. So if he goes out there and gets a win and looks pretty damn good, you could kind of talk yourself into Leon Edwards getting screwed over one more time, or maybe Leon's got to go fight Gilbert coming off the win. Who knows right now? We know Covington's got next. I feel like Chiesa could be next after that with a strong win here. So I think he's going to lean on his strengths. I like him. I would favor him, but I think this is going to be a very interesting battle because no one's here to say Michael Chiesa is the greatest striker, or if he got into an even war with Luque, would he be the last man standing? I think this is still a fight Luque can win. That's why you love the matchmaking here. That's why you love the match. But I'm very high on how good Chiesa is at welterweight now that he's not doing those crazy weight cuts of old, and how good his ground game is. That's why you love these type of perfectly contrasting style matchups when they have this much at stake.
Yeah, 100%. Add in the fact that Michael Chiesa is pretty well in with the UFC, does broadcast work, is generally well liked, and he may have a pretty good case after this fight if he can get it done. But you mentioned stakes. Speaking of stakes, man, if the stakes are so high, as high as your balls, you don't want to be taking chances. Go with the best, and that is Manscaped's Lawnmower 4.0. The brand new baby is out now, and boy, is it better than ever, and was it worth the wait? You get it in the new Performance Package 4.0. The great lawnmower, you've got the travel lock, so it doesn't go off in your bag. You've got the on-off switch, the ceramic blades. You've got more guards than ever, so you can adjust the length. It's waterproof. The LED light, it can be turned on and off whenever you want. It is vastly improved, and the Performance Package 4.0, you also get the Weed Whacker. This guy's got 9,000 RPMs of power, so you can trim all your nose hairs. That's got the skin-safe technology as well. It also comes with the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant, which is very important when you're just leaving the house. You got the Crop Reviver Toner, which is kind of like a mid-game check. Maybe you're on a date and you're like, ooh, I want the boys to be fresh. This is going somewhere. So the Crop Reviver Toner works. And then you got the Performance Boxer Briefs, so you can be wearing them and your balls can, breathe. You don't want to be like Kramer and just not wearing anything down there. And then you got the Shed Travel Bag to carry all the goods in. And the good friends at Manscaped are giving you 20% off if you use the code submission. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead and do it and save yourself some money. Save some bucks with that code submission. Save yourself 20% off. Isn't that right, Dennis?
That's right, man. And that Shed travel bag, by the way, has been all around the place with me. That thing is so secure and so easy to use. So just another added bonus from Manscaped. Why not jump on and get yourself that deal now and get free shipping too with that code word submission. But Cass, we're speaking to Brian about it right now, the big fights that are happening this weekend. And I mean, you cannot go past some of the crazy money that can be made. And there is only one place to go and do it, and that is with my bookie. If you guys sign up with promo code submission, you can take advantage of an up to $1,000 bonus on your first deposit. That's with promo code submission. There are so many crazy things that can happen this weekend at UFC 265. Is Derrick Lewis going to be able to do it? What round is going to come out and become the interim champion? What's going to happen with Vicente Luque? What's going to happen with Michael Chiesa? So many great fights on the card. What about the Olympics? Who's going to win the gold medal where? There is only one place to go, and that is my bookie. Go to my bookie today. Use the code word submission. Use that up to $1,000 bonus on your first deposit. Make it rain. Christmas comes early. I was going to say in July, but it could come in August if you go to my bookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only at my bookie. And Cass, I'm speaking of the fights coming up. UFC 265. There is nothing worse, and I know you and me have experienced it over and over again, where you want to go watch the fights with your mates, and you cannot find a pub to go watch it at. And there's nothing worse, by the way, of going in those chats, and people are suggesting pubs on the other side of the state because they don't know where to go, and that's the only one they've ever seen. There is only one place you guys can go to solve all these problems nice and quick, and that is Match Pint. Match Pint lists all the pubs and bars that are showing sports near you and that are showing UFC 265. All you need to do is click the link in our description, visit the website. You guys can see exactly where you can watch UFC 265. And in the future, if you go on the website, you can search for all the sporting events that you want to find. With the Olympics right now, with the fighting right now, with UFC 265, you don't want to show up to a pubcast and they're playing the Goat Herd Racing from 2008. And even though that is a very, very monumental race, you want to watch UFC 265 on the big screen. They tell you where it's playing. They tell you if it's on the big screen. They tell you all the deals at the pub. There is no better place to go to find that out. And Cass, for example, so many great places just in Victoria alone to watch the fights.
Yeah, that's right. You can even use the map feature, so you can basically pin your location using your GPS, and then that way it just shows you, all right, what's near you. You can check out the pubs. You can see what kind of deals they've got going on. You can add your teams. It doesn't have to be just UFC 265 this weekend. If it's soccer or any other sports, you can use that too. There's a video playing right now that shows you exactly how it's done, and use the link in the description below. Just click it. It'll take you straight to the website. It'll take you straight to UFC 265, so you don't have to mess about. It'll show you the pubs and where exactly you can watch the fights this coming weekend. But I think we've got about 1 or 2 minutes left with you, BC, so we'll make it super quick. I have to kind of give almost a shout out, give a mention to the co-main event. You've got Aldo versus Munhoz, which can only be one thing, and that's an absolute banger that'll make us MMA fans blow our collective loads at just how violent this one could possibly be. We're going there, BC. Man, body shots, leg kicks, the return of 3-round Aldo. You know, if we can't have Nunes versus Pena, it's a pretty tasty new co-main event. What are you expecting here? And I'll hit you with a double because you got to go in a second. You know, if Aldo can win here, or maybe even if he loses, can we please have Aldo versus Dominic Cruz? You know, two icons of their divisions now fighting in the same division. The leg kicks versus the footwork. Oh man, I am excited about Munhoz. So many
old guys at 135, old guys that are still lingering that I love watching fight, right? Like Edgar and Mr. Faber and Dom Cruz. I mean, it's a fun group right there. I don't think Aldo's done fighting for the bantamweight title. I think he has a good chance to win this fight, and I think with his name value and his fun style and this sort of reborn look at 135, he's still going to be a big player. This is going to be a tough fight. These guys are so much more alike than I realize, right? It's like they're both from Brazil. They were born the same year, 2 days apart. And they're both at this point sort of like really heavy counterpunchers who don't like to take a step backwards and like to come in there and pick their spots and unload. So you have to expect a fun fight here. Aldo's the better fighter, and he's got the longer reach, a significantly longer reach, and certainly a better decorated history. But Munhoz is tough, man. If you sleep on him, if you're not in the right frame, he can get you out of there. I just feel like at the end, it's going to be a little bit like the Spider-Man meme. They're both going to go in there with the same bite down style and go after it. But Aldo's just a little bit better, and I love this version of him at 135, man. I don't know how he makes it. His body is a wonderland. I mean, it's a tight as shit. There's nowhere else to put any more body fat or muscle. But he's just like this badass slugger. He's not coming at you with old school leg kicks or looking to outwork you, but he's there to knock you out if you're not Peter Yan or you're not above that level right there. So I think he can get the win here. And there's just something about Jose Aldo's now in that like full on love old school warrior stage where anything he does positive, we drink it down. We just go freaking nuts. I think it's going to be a big boom. The crowd's going to go wild. And he's going to have a big moment. And as deep as this division is, Dana loves taking people with big names and putting them back in title fights. So, if he lingers, I think there's still some big business for Jose Aldo, even though we saw what happened at the highest level against Peter Yan.
I love it. BC dropping some John Mayer knowledge on us. Guys, make sure to follow the man at B Campbell, of course, at Morning Kombat. Vote for the guys at the World MMA Awards. Well deserved, man. Congratulations to you and Luke. Hey,
who dropped the ball not putting Submission Radio on there? Are they not watching the numbers?
We'll live vicariously through you.
We'll live through you guys. We'll live through you guys. And everybody else can live through you guys every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday nights in Australia when you guys do the show. Brian, thank you so much.
Hell, Wani and DC, they're not even a show anymore last time I checked. All right, come on, okay? Enough with Canada. Australia will rise again. Thank you, fellas.